Hey everyone, welcome back to Z channel. So today we're going to be talking about fungal acne. I took so long to make this video, so let's just get into it because we don't want to wait any longer, right? Fungal acne is a very interesting type of acne because not many people have done research and studies on this, and it's not even in my esthetician book. So my teacher had to look it up herself and kind of do some of her own, like, I don't know, scouting around. But essentially, I did use some great resources that I will put the names of the website up here, and I will also put the name of the website and the other resources I used to get all this fungal acne information in the description box below. Please go check out the website and those resources because they are so well researched, so well written, and this is where I really got my information from. So all of this isn't really from anything to do with my esthetician school textbook. Literally, it's not in there. So that can give you an idea of how mysterious fungal acne is and how hard it is to understand it because people are still trying to understand it. So I have notes, so please bear with me. This is a lot of information. There is a yeast called Melissagia, and this yeast is present on everyone's skin. And essentially, yeast, or this specific yeast as well, feeds off of oil, and especially if you produce a lot of excess oil, this Melissagia yeast can grow and kind of feed off that oil. So when this yeast is exposed to a lot of oil production, Melissagia gets kind of overactive, and when it becomes overactive, it can create different skin conditions like fungal acne. There's also dandruff, seborrheic dermatitis. Those are all skin conditions that are a product of overactive yeast. With fungal acne, in order to determine if you may have it, usually it is best to go to your dermatologist. They can most of the time do a test where they take a bit of fluid from the pustule and then they test that, and essentially they could tell you if you have fungal acne or not. Essentially, if you don't go to a derm, another way to determine if you have fungal acne is to kind of look at its appearance. Fungal acne has little bumps, uniform in appearance, and they're usually pustules. So the reason why I said pustule, which is a pimple without the pus in it or the pus head, it's usually just a red inflamed bump. Fungal acne usually does not look poppable. This is something that is almost like skin colored. It could be yellow, and it's like little dots on areas of the skin that are the most oily. Those areas are prone to oil production, and essentially that is the perfect place for the yeast to eat up the oil and become overactive. So any spot that's very oily, like your back or your forehead, and any spot that is prone to being in dark, warm places a lot, like if you wear a helmet and it covers up a part of your face and you tend to sweat with that helmet on, you could easily get fungal acne in that area. So this is something that I think athletes can get, as well as people who just tend to have very oily skin and may have conditions like these bangs here that promote the warm, dark space. So also the last point about how to tell if you have fungal acne, one of the determining factors that people with fungal acne tend to have is very itchy areas. So the fungal acne will usually be itchy. So again, to go into the causes, we have excess sweating, we have hot and humid environments. Again, the one thing I missed here was skincare products that are occlusive. If you are using a product that's occlusive, again, that kind of traps the oil and maybe could cause more oil production, and essentially that could feed the yeast. And if you use products that the yeast likes to eat and can turn into food, then that could also enhance the growth and make the fungal acne a bit more noticeable. And the last point I have here are immunosuppressants and antibiotic usage. I am no doctor, nor am I an esthetician quite yet, but essentially always talk to your doctor about this type of medical stuff. But essentially what I learned, I believe from Dr. Dre, is that these can alter the skin flora and can cause eruptions. So when it comes to people who already have acne, again, repeating myself just really quickly, usually people with acne produce more oil. And essentially, again, that's the food for that yeast that creates fungal acne. Or people who have acne tend to take antibiotics. And like we said before, that can alter the skin's flora and create room for yeast to grow. Now let's get into the fungal acne ingredients to avoid. And I just want to make this point again. I did not know this information myself. I obviously had to look it up. There is a website, and I'm currently forgetting the name, but I will put it here and I will put it in the description. Please go look at that website. There is a guy who runs that site who did a lot of research on this himself and provided all of these resources. I got all of this information from him. I'm honestly just summing it up and relaying it. But he does a really great job at just giving you an honest breakdown and even recommending you products to use. First type of ingredient that is recommended to avoid is fatty acids. We have lauric acid, we have myristic acid, we have stearic acid, linoleic, oleic, and palmitic acid. We also want to avoid oils as well. Again, the oils are what the fungal acne feeds off of. There are certain oils that are technically okay to use on the skin, and that is squalane oil with an A, not squalene, caprylic/capric triglycerides, and mineral oil. Those three are the types of oils that tend to be okay or are okay for fungal acne. So another thing is galactomyces, which is yeast ferment. This is not something that you should be using on fungal acne. And then the next thing that you should avoid is coconut oil. So this is definitely a full-on avoid. Apparently, coconut oil has antifungal properties, but it is mainly composed of lauric acid, which enhances and influences the growth of Malassezia. Just because an ingredient has antifungal properties doesn't mean it doesn't contain another ingredient that could cause fungal acne to erupt. So the next thing I want to talk about are fatty alcohols. So at first this wasn't really a concern, but then there was new research that shows that the metabolism of these fatty alcohols can actually be a growth factor for the yeast that causes fungal acne. All right, so let's get into the true iffy ingredients, but these are the real iffy ones that are still kind of unknown. So the first thing we have are cholesterols, and then the second thing we have are ceramides. So ceramides are also composed of fatty acids as well, and our body can break down, or our skin, I guess, can break down the components of ceramides, and the Malassezia can use those as food. So those can cause the yeast to kind of be overactive. We have our esters, and esters are a combination of alcohol and fatty acids. So like we said before, fatty acids are something that we don't want to include in our product formulations if we have fungal acne. So anything that ends in ate is technically or is an ester, and that can kind of make things a bit easier when you're looking at your ingredient list. Anything that ends in ate. This is a quick little quote from the website. Esters are bad if they contain fatty acids that are within C11 to C24 range. So I believe this is the carbon chain range, how long the chain is. So essentially, if the esters, which is a combination of alcohol and fatty acid, if they contain fatty acid that is outside of that carbon range, then essentially you might be able to use it. But if the ester contains a fatty acid that is within that range, then you probably won't be able to use it. So in this case, again from the website, there is an ester, type of ester, that is called monoglyceride. And an example of this would be glycerol caprylic. And this does not increase the growth of fungal acne. So essentially what it's saying is that this is an ester, but because it's outside of that chain range, it can be used on the skin in a safe manner if you have fungal acne. But again, it says dose dependent manner, which makes me assume that if you use too much of this ingredient, it could cause the fungal acne to erupt again. This is just an example of how not all of the esters are bad for the skin if you do have fungal acne. So the next ingredient I wanted to talk about were amino acids and vitamins. So when these are in the presence of other lipids, or if you have these types of amino acids or vitamins in your product, like vitamin B1 or vitamin B6, these can enhance the growth of the yeast. Or if you have arginine, which is a common amino acid used in skincare products, can add to the growth of the fungal acne, and also the other vitamins and amino acids I talked about before can add to the growth. Or if amino acids and vitamins are in the presence of other lipids, then they can increase the growth of the fungal acne. So I also wrote here, best to avoid TBH, sorry. So essentially, in my personal opinion, if I had fungal acne, I would avoid amino acids and vitamins, although very hard. I do have some products I'm going to talk about later that do contain some, but aren't in the presence of other lipids, so they don't tend to have the ability to grow the yeast. But essentially, I would try to avoid this as best as possible. So the next ingredient I want to talk about is white petroleum. It tends to be occlusive, but there aren't a lot of studies showing that it grows the yeast. And so this, I guess, would be an iffy ingredient because people don't necessarily know if it grows it or not. I guess it's really just dependent on each person. All right, oh my God. So next we're going to talk about what stops the growth of fungal acne. So essentially the first thing I have here is something I'm not too familiar with, so bear with me again. It's called ketoconazole. This ingredient inhibits the growth of fungal acne, and one product that contains this ingredient is Nicole shampoo. It's a dandruff shampoo, and a lot of people who have fungal acne tend to use dandruff shampoo. I would recommend, I guess, using this one because it has this ingredient. This seems like the top one that people use. I've actually asked this question on my Instagram as well, and people seem to talk about this one a lot as well. So the next thing that is really good, or a good ingredient that you can use, is honey or propolis. This has antifungal properties, but again, just gotta be careful because a lot of those products that contain that ingredient also contain other ingredients that aren't friendly towards fungal acne. The other thing I want to talk about is salicylic acid. It is antifungal, and it also helps to reduce oil production. That is a really good ingredient because it controls oil, but also controls the fungal effects that could grow the yeast. So the last two things I want to talk about are sulfur, which is effective for acne, and it's a good fungal acne treatment. It produces a substance that is toxic to the yeast, Malassezia, and then the urea is really good for dry skin, eczema-prone skin. I should know, Eucerin cream, if you've ever used that from the drugstore, it contains urea most of the time, I'm almost positive. Urea helps to control excess growth on the skin, which is something that fungal acne is classified as, which is just like an excessive growth. So now let's talk about some of the ingredients that are okay to use. So something like glycerin is okay to use unless glycerin is in very high concentrations. Usually it's all right. The other thing I have here is lactobacillus and bifidobacterium lactococcus. Lord, oh my God, I will put that here somewhere. These are lactic acid producing bacterias, and they will not affect the fungal acne. The other thing I want to talk about is Saccharomyces, which is a rice ferment filtrate. Usually we want to be careful with this fermentation. There hasn't been any evidence shown for the Saccharomyces ferment filtrate, but it's still something you should be careful with. But if you're willing to take that shot, I guess that's all right. The other thing I wanted to talk about, oh, that's it. So let's get into fungal acne friendly products. So essentially when it comes to cleansers, the one cleanser that I thought fit best was the Sunjung pH 6.5 foaming cleanser. So that was the one cleanser that I thought fit the portfolio or the picture well for fungal acne individuals. In terms of exfoliants, the two exfoliants that I saw was the BHA AHA Clarifying Treatment Toner by Cosrx and the Good Acids Pore Toner by Peach and Lily. I have the Good Acids Pore Toner. I love it. It does contain salicylic acid. Not a lot though. I wouldn't say that it's super duper exfoliating, but it's good to be gentle. I would also look into the AHA BHA Clarifying Treatment Toner by Cosrx. That could be really good. I know Cosrx makes amazing exfoliating ingredients or exfoliating toners, so I would definitely look into that one as well. Both of these toners contain salicylic acid, so essentially they are good exfoliants as well as toners. And they will help to remove that excess oil production. So now let's get into like toners that don't contain the exfoliants. The first toner that I really want to talk about is the Mugwort Essence by I'm From. You can find this on Wishtrend. This is probably your safest bet because it is 100% mugwort. You don't have to worry about any other ingredient causing another ingredient to act a certain way in your body, metabolizing it, and la-di-da. This is probably your safest bet. The other thing that you could go for is the Etude House Sunjung pH 5.5 Relief Toner. This contains bentene and panthenol, vitamin B5, and an amino acid. So like I said before, amino acids are a little bit sneaky. We want to be careful. I wrote here, although amino acids only increase growth of melassesia in the presence of fatty acids and fatty oil and esters, they should still be used with caution. So again, you could use this if you're feeling bold, but I wouldn't blame you if you're a little scared and you wanted to go with the Mugwort Essence, you know? So now let's get into serums. So I'm gonna start off with the Safe Bet serum. The Safe Bet products are the products that I think are the safest option in terms of ingredients if you're looking for a certain type of product like this for your fungal acne. So the first Safe Bet serum I want to talk about is the Beta-Glucan Recovery Serum by J. Cosmune. And essentially I believe that this one is the safest bet when it comes to ingredients, that it doesn't have any red flags. But the other thing I would talk about is the Glass Skin Serum, which tends to be recommended. This contains peptides and amino acids. Amino acids again could increase the growth, but in presence of other lipids. I do see that the top two that I have recognized to be pretty well loved amongst the fungal acne community and on these websites were the Glass Skin Serum and the Beta-Glucan Recovery Serum. So I would say those are probably your best bet. So with moisturizer, I'm actually happy about this one. So the first moisturizer I want to talk about is the Crave Beauty Oh So Simple Moisturizer. So this one is also well known amongst the community to be a great fungal acne moisturizer. I also believe it has been marketed that way, if I can remember correctly. It contains a fatty alcohol that may or may not feed melassesia. It also contains an amino acid. In this case, I would patch test it, I guess on a part of the face that does produce fungal acne. I have heard great stories about this doing well with fungal acne, but again, it does contain a fatty alcohol that could or could not feed melassesia. And it also does contain an amino acid. The last one that is the safe bet, I believe, is the Etude House 99% Aloe Soothing Gel. Literally almost completely aloe. At that point, I would believe that this is probably going to be your safest bet. The last thing I want to talk about is an oil. And the reason why I really am happy about this oil is because I feel like people who may have fungal acne who want to use an oil on the skin to really help replenish that skin barrier might feel a little bit lost because oils are most of the time not very loved by fungal acne or the yeast essentially. So the oil that I really recommend is the Oliverier 100% Squalane oil with an A, not the E. And essentially this is an oil that is safe for fungal acne. It's 100% squalane oil. So I really recommend that you try that out. Alright guys, so that is it for this video. Be sure to watch the two videos in the end screen here. I will probably be making more fungal acne videos as I grow and gain more knowledge, but I really wanted to put this out there, kind of just compile everything I've been learning, what my esthetician teacher told me, what I learned from all these amazing people who did their own research. So again, please look in the description box for the links to all these amazing websites and resources and the people that I used as resources to help me gain this information. So thank you for watching, and bye.